Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Elmont Village Township Hall. I'm going to call the meeting of the Elmont Village Council, September 16th, 2025 to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before roll call, I'll remind council that we have a pretty stacked and full agenda tonight, so I'll ask everybody to stay focused and on point. Roll call.
President Dyke.
Present.
President Pro Tem Steffler.
Present.
Councilmember Feldman.
Present.
Councilmember Glasser.
Present.
Councilmember Miller.
Present.
Councilmember Powell.
Present.
Councilmember Schneider.
Present.
For the approval of the agenda, we have one addition that I'm aware of. It's the Fusion Brandon Brook St. Clair project update. That's going to be put under communications. Do we have any other additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the addition that's been aforementioned.
So
Support.
Motion by President Pro Tem Steffler, supported by Councilmember Schneider to approve the agenda as presented with the addition of the Friesen Vandenbroek update under communication. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Communications, Friesen Vandenbroek project update.
All right, thank you. My name is Jarek Rose with Friesen Vandenbroek. Wanted to come out tonight and give you guys a quick update on the St. Clair Street project. Been a little bit too long since we probably reported back to you. My pleasure. The good news is we've cleared the environmental review. So we got through SHPO, we got through NEPA. Kind of the bummer part of it that we found out during the process is that we had to clear those steps before we could start applying for the grant. So now that we cleared the environmental review at the end of August, we're working with the EPA right now on submitting all the grant application paperwork. So that typically takes 45 days, but with the end of the fiscal year being on the 30th here, I expect it's probably going to take a little bit longer because it's a little chaotic at all the federal and state levels at that time. So I would anticipate probably 60 days at least before we get the grant award. So that's kind of what I built into the schedule here. Final engineering's in its, like it says, final stages. We're talking to the administration a little bit this week, trying to look at maybe making a few tweaks to the road width. We're trying to get as much of the utilities out of the road footprint that we can, but also I don't think we want to get into disturbing or removing too many of the trees along East St. Clair. So it's a balancing act trying to accomplish both because they don't like to coexist in the same area. So on the schedule, we're a little bit behind from what it was back in March or April when we presented it to you. It pushed the bidding, the advertising, the bidding, the award out about a month, maybe two. But at the end of the day, I think our construction start time is still going to be around the March, April period of next year. So we're a little bit behind on the grant, on the getting the grant, clearing the SHPO, the final engineering plans, but we're going to catch up through the holidays and be back on schedule for a spring start. And we are aware of the festival that's this weekend, and that will be next year too. So that'd just be in the progress clause for the contractor to work around. I think the project will still be ongoing at this time, but hopefully in its final stages. Anybody have any questions?
Given timeframes in these projects sometimes can lag, like you said, with the grants, that sort of thing. If construction starts later than like July, mid-July, how late into the year can you go with laying cement or blacktop before it has to be like a partial project going in the next.
Right.
Is that a worry?
It could be. I think they're going to move pretty quick on this project, but it's typically Thanksgiving is about the end of the paving season. You know, if we get weather that even lasts that long, and we try to wrap it up by the November 15th hunting day.
But if that happens, we would have plans in place and that would be communicated throughout the project, correct?
Correct. Yep. We should know well before we get to the first of the year where we're at with that step. So we will look at making adjustments as need be if that looks like that's going to be the reality.
Anybody else from council?
Is there, I know that we've indicated to village administration, we'd like to try to get these updates a little more regularly. Is there a way that we can start to get at least monthly or bi-monthly updates of where we stand in case these project timelines meet? Because like you said, there's the festival that you're aware of. There's another one that's supposed to take place, both of which would be potentially impacted by this. Obviously with other projects and events that we have going on. So keeping an eye on what the projection is going to be helps us address some of those other issues. Is there a way that we can start to get monthly or bi-monthly, even if
Absolutely.
it's just this sheet to show any modifications?
Yep, sure can. We can.
Okay.
We'll shoot for a monthly. I think we know where we're at now.
Okay.
If we cleared that hurdle, so it'll be pretty easy keeping up with EPA. They'll be in communication consistently through the whole grant award process, so
Certainly.
won't be an issue.
Okay.
Anybody else on council with questions? Thank you for coming with the
All
update.
right,
Much
thank you.
appreciated. Very helpful. Consent agenda, meeting minutes, September 2nd, 2025.
I just have one correction. On page 5, under my comment, the Lapeer Optimist Club was spelled wrong.
Here was Optimist,
It's Optimist, I think.
M-I-S-T.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Anybody else on minutes? General fund. Major street fund, local street fund, Parks and Recreation fund, Downtown Development Authority fund, Water Tower Debt fund, Capital Project fund, Sewer fund, Water fund, Equipment fund, Payroll Register report, Water report, DPW activity report, water usage report.
Does anybody else find it odd that the hospital, which is supposedly shut down and not occupied, still using such large volumes of water? Do we have any idea why? Any thoughts on that? Okay.
Can we look into it? Wastewater treatment plant report. Police activity report, Clemens. Construction Code Authority report. OEO report. Building permit report. Financial position report. Clerk treasurer report. For questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Councilmember Feldman, approved or supported by Councilmember Schneider to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Now is the time for public comment for any item on our agenda. Do we have any public comment tonight on any presented agenda item? Being none, regular agenda, item number 1, fiscal year 2025 audit presentation. Ms. Kiesler.
I'm going to introduce Mr. Wes Messing. He is partner. For King and Messing.
Yep.
He will present the audit.
Welcome, some new faces on council. So thank you, Kim. Yes, my name's Wes. I'm a CPA with King and Messing. We're contracted by the village, almost said township, sorry, village. I was just here for the township a week or so ago. So we're contracted by the village to conduct the audit for the village as required by the state of Michigan. Overall, I don't have anything significantly notable to report to you guys. Overall, everything went very smooth with our audit. Kim continues to do a good job with the bookkeeping and providing us all the information that we need so we can come in and bring our crew, ask 100 questions in the course of a couple days and conduct our procedures so we can get your audit completed. I did provide, you should have on your desk a little bit of a financial summary. I'm probably not going to talk through all of it, but I'll kind of touch on some of the major key items on there just in the effort of conserving time. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask away. The first number you'll see on there is the fund balance for the general fund as of June 30th, 2025. It was just under 2.4. You can see that has been growing a little bit or steadily over the last 5 years. So that's a good indication. Those are good from a financial perspective. That's a good thing to see. Always want to see growth in that number versus shrinkage. It means that we're being fiscally responsible with our funds. We're bringing in enough in property taxes, state shared revenues, and so on that we're able to cover our expenses and put a little bit away for something in the future, whether it be unexpected or planned. So that's a good thing for a village of your size. It's a more than sufficient fund balance. So that's probably the big number. You can see your property taxes, your intergovernmental revenues, which is state shared revenues. Those are trending upwards over the last 5 years. So that's good indication of what we can hopefully expect to see in the future as well. Expenses, overall, just the total expenditures for the general fund, pretty kind of stable. It kind of fluctuates a little bit here and there, but I don't see a really steep increase or a trend upwards. That's a good thing to see as well. We're doing a good job of managing our costs and our expenses to make sure we're keeping those in check and not getting into a bad position of high expenses. So that's good to see, especially over the last 4 or 5 years when we've seen as much inflation as we have. So I'll kind of move a little bit quicker through the other ones. Major Streets has a fund balance of about $600,000. That's been trending upwards. Haven't had any real significant projects on Major Streets in the last 5 years. So I know there's some coming. So there'll probably be some of that money used with what the gentleman was just talking about with St. Clair Street. Local Street Fund, that has a fund balance of about $235,000. We have done some street projects in there over the last 5 years. So that fund balance kind of has stayed relatively in that range, not really growing a lot. In the years that we're doing big construction projects, we're using some of it. In the years that we're not doing a construction project, we're able to add to our balance to save for the future projects. So no real issues with those funds as far as a financial position are concerns. Let's jump to the third page. You'll see on that one in the middle and the bottom, the sewer and the water fund. Both of those funds over the last 5 years have shown increases in cash and working capital and net position and revenues. Those are all very good things from a financial perspective to see. So we're covering our costs. We're monitoring our rates to make sure that they're adjusted annually to cover our costs. We're even covering the depreciation of our infrastructure so that we can accumulate some funds because some point we have to replace that infrastructure. So yes, those net position figures in those funds are high, but that does include the past investment in our infrastructure. So that's more than just cash. You can see those numbers have been presented too. So there's a lot of things in that number, But overall, our cash position in those funds is fairly strong. And the sewer fund especially, water fund has been trending back upwards since in 2021 fiscal year end. We paid a lot of money in that year. I think it was around $500,000 for a water main project. So we paid cash for that project, which really depleted that fund at that time. But now we've since recovered and are continuing to add back into that fund. And then the last page has the equipment fund on there. That one looks a little bit different this year than what it was last year. There's a pretty drastic increase in our revenues. So the village has kind of been a little bit more proactive about reviewing those and making sure that we're getting proper rentals charged to the various departments for the equipment that's being used. So that has really been a good kind of shot in the arm for the equipment fund to have some additional funds to use. There are, every year it seems like you guys generally buy 2 to 5 pieces of equipment, whether it be police vehicles, DPW equipment, whatever it may be, backhoes, all that fun stuff, which is good. We want to make sure we're monitoring our equipment, that we're staying on top of it, that it's not getting too old on us and costing us too much in repairs. And this year you borrowed from the general fund to do some of those purchases rather than using a bank. So there's a little bit of nuances with that as far as the accounting goes with borrowing from the general fund. I've talked with Kim and Dale about that, about how that's going to work going forward. It's not an issue, but it does create what looks like a deficit in that fund. So I'll make you aware of that, because we've loaned. The state views a loan from the general fund differently than it does a loan from a bank. So because of that, it does create what appears in some ways to be a deficit in that fund. The state is going to send you a letter. I've talked with Kim and Dale about that will help you respond to that and make sure that everything's fine with that. It's not going to cause any issues or anything like that, but it will just be a formality that we've got to respond to their inquiry about that. So I think from a financial standpoint, the general fund has the cash. I think it makes a lot of sense to borrow money from the general fund for those things rather than paying the interest to a bank. If we can keep the money within the village and kind of churning through, I think that makes sense. So that was a lot in a little bit of time. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. We have a contract for a few more years yet, so we will plan to see you guys next year and a couple of years after that. So.
Question.
Okay.
I was going through the full report, and there's a pretty lengthy section where it goes over some of our like benefits, like pension liabilities, things like that. It's pretty complicated to work through in the spreadsheet. Do you have like a quick 60-second overview?
Yeah,
of how you look there?
I actually looked at that to kind of brief myself again before we started. So there's 2 main parts of that. So there's one that's pension and the other that's OPEB, OPEB, which stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. Pension is the promises that have been made for retirement benefits to current and past employees. OPEB would be health insurance and other post-retirement benefits that we've promised. If I look at so there's something that's called a net pension liability, which basically says as of a certain date, how much do we owe to cover those promises that we have made. As of June 30th, your net pension liability was around $1 million. So we have assets in that fund. We've paid money and contributed to that, but we also have a promise that's kind of a liability in that. And our promises are currently outweighing our assets by about $1 million. The good news is that didn't change much from last year to this year. So it's somewhat plateaued. That's a good thing. There's lots of things that change that. If we're changing the promises, that changes it. If the market has a bad year, that changes it because that brings our assets down. Or has a good year, our assets grow. It can bring our liability down. So from an overall standpoint, I can say for the last couple of years that has stayed pretty consistent. So that's good. You have $1 million liability out there. nothing that says that has to be paid tomorrow, because that's going to be paid out over the lifetime of those people that we've made those promises to. But it is out there. So at some point that will have to get caught up over time. But it's not, there's a calculation that says this is how much you're supposed to contribute towards this every year. Anything that I'm aware of, you guys are making those required contributions. So that should keep you on track. The other one, OPEB, that has been decreasing for the last 3 or 4 years. The liability that's hanging out there for that one has slowly been coming down. So that's a good thing. Let me find my page that has that on it, sorry. That one currently, or as of June 30th, was about 600,000 was our liability. But if I go back 2 or 3 years ago, it was almost 1.5 million. So that has significantly decreased over the last 5 years, that we are funding enough into that plan that it's pulling that, or getting enough money there to cover those promises. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. When I was going through the columns of numbers.
A lot of numbers
I need
there.
someone to explain this.
There are requirements for what we report on that. It's heavy, so that puts a lot of numbers on a page. I understand.
Kim, I know in the past, at times we evaluate how we're making contributions to those funds, and, determine whether or not we should increase them or keep them at the same level. Based on our audit findings, do you have any type of recommendation for council on that, or is that something that you would need to kind of think about?
I'd probably have to think about it. I mean, our percentage went up this year. So that's a good thing, right? And I know we have in the past added additional contributions. I think it's going to take a lot more analysis, especially with the closed retirement plans going forward.
Yeah, I think if, council agrees that it's something that once you have some time to digest it, it would be nice just to get an overview of that so we can make whatever choice.
Our reporting on that piggybacks off of MERS, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so MERS would be a good resource too. They're probably more direct source of information relating to that than what we are, because we're kind of secondary to them. We take their numbers and import them into ours. So they're more close to the source of that data. They might be able to help answer some questions if you're wondering, if you're wanting to go down that road. They would be the place that I would recommend starting.
And they, in their evaluation, they, if you want to get 100% funded in, I think, 10 years, you must contribute so much. So I can at least provide that. I remember it being very high.
Yeah, I remember you presented it to us before, and I think at least a couple of times we have said, yep, let's put a little bit more in while we have the resources to do so.
Right.
It's good to do that from time to time.
Any other questions for the audience?
Any emerging GASB items that could affect the next fiscal year, like especially leases or subscription IT arrangements that we're aware of?
Well, those subscriptions and leases, those aren't really new ones. They've been around for a little bit. The one that's most recently came into place is regarding compensated absences. So there's a new requirement, and this also, the timing of it is kind of coincidental, that the timing that GASB put out a requirement for reporting compensated absences was the same, almost coincided with when the state of Michigan required the new ESTA laws for paid time off for all of the employees. So that's in your report. That's baked into it to this year. The requirement was there for this year. I can't remember off. It's there. I could find it. What your actual liability is for compensated absences. But that's in there. To say what's on the horizon, I can only imagine what they're dreaming up for us. They're on GASB. I mean, we're still dealing, there's still things in your report that are from GASB 34. I believe the current one is around GASB 110, 115, somewhere in that range, and they're probably already talking about 10 or 15 more. So it's a little frustrating on our end, the constant addition of more requirements. They always want more and more and more and more out of you guys or out of us to put in the report. So we got our work cut out for us to keep up with all their new pronouncements.
I can certainly appreciate the frustration with government regulation, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
On a different topic, any additional single point of failure observations in the processes we have beyond the two noted deficiencies, which are the same ones we regularly get for a community
Yeah.
for our size, but any other ones for concern?
No, I don't have any other for concern right now.
All right. Lastly, just our fund balance for our general funds align with best practice ranges based on our revenue volatility. Would you agree with that at this point?
I think for a village of your size and your budget, what you have for activity for revenues and expenditures, I think you have a healthy fund balance in the general fund.
So the new accounting practices that we've implemented this year of making sure that we're appropriately billing the different departments, like you mentioned, for the equipment fund, is a new practice for us village-wide, and it was quite the adaptation for all of us. But would you agree that that practice was an appropriate practice for us to institute,
Yes,
and perhaps maybe should have done it sooner?
I agree with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, but better now than 5 years from now. So the improvement that you've seen, I think the revenue in the equipment fund went from 180 to almost 300 or over 300. So that's going to be a big shot in the arm for the equipment fund to help cover the liabilities that you have for past equipment, because you're paying a lot of debts off on past equipment. It's been something I know I've commented before. It'd be nice to see the village be able to turn that over and be able to pay cash or some more down payment for equipment rather than having to finance it. But that's hard because in order to do that, you got to pay for the last equipment and the next equipment now.
Right.
So that's a way that's going to help you guys do that.
Sure. And I mean, it's a staggering representation to see it this way.
Mhm.
When it was pitched to us to start doing it this way, it was difficult to swallow, and it sounds nice in theory, and it was a struggle to get through, at least for this budget year. But the seeing it in this, it's a stark contrast from the way that we were doing it before.
Yeah.
So I think it's appropriate. But you
And that-
mentioned that the borrowing from the general fund is not really an issue, but because it looks like a deficit, we have to represent that it's different. You mentioned they treat it differently, borrowing from the general fund, than
Yes.
taking a traditional bank financed loan. How do they view it differently? Just as long as our accounting methods aren't incorrect, we just have to explain ourselves essentially?
That's correct.
Okay.
In a nutshell, yes.
Okay.
Your fund balance in total is not a deficit,
Right.
but within your fund balance, there's certain divisions that we have to kind of split out liabilities that are there from an operating standpoint and from a equipment or asset standpoint.
Sure.
And you have a large investment in equipment, but if I look at just your current assets minus current liabilities, due to general fund is how it has to be reported, and that's a current liability.
Sure.
So that shows that your current assets are not enough to cover your current liabilities.
Okay.
Whereas if it was a finance with a bank, it wouldn't be a current liability, it would be a long-term liability.
Right.
Even though you have it termed out with the general fund,
Right.
again, GASB, the requirements that we have for how we report that, it shows as if you're underwater from a current asset perspective.
Right, from a snapshot in time rather than
Yes.
a bigger picture perspective.
Yes.
So it's really more of a show and tell explanation
Yes.
of what the operation is,
Yes. It's not something that we haven't dealt with before elsewhere, whether it be intentional or not.
Right?
But I know based on the information that we have to report to the state, that they are going to send a response and ask for a plan. And that's something that I believe I talked with Kim and Dale about. You can work on that now. They're going to require what's called a corrective action plan. There's certain requirements for that.
Mhm.
It has to be a resolution, and we have to kind of lay out what is the plan for removing this deficit. And it might take 2, 3, 4 years before that deficit is removed. It's okay, but we have to lay that plan out to the state of Michigan.
So, and it's not, again, it's just for the bigger picture, it's not that we shouldn't be taking this accounting practice or these funding steps. It's just how we itemize it and explain it. We still need to perfect that.
Yes.
Okay.
But there's not really anything you need to do to change how it's reported. It's just that's the requirement for how it is reported. But by having this increase in equipment rental revenues, if we can grow some cash in the equipment fund, that will help eliminate that deficit a lot faster, to the point that if we can accumulate some cash, we could still have loans with the general fund. And if the cash is more than the loans, then you wouldn't have a deficit anymore.
Either way, we're putting taxpayer dollars to better service by
Yes.
keeping them here and growing it. So overall, big picture, it's a good practice. We need a little work on how we document it and report it and get approval for it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much, Mr. Messer.
Yeah, no problem. That letter will come once we actually hit the submit button to the state of Michigan. It'll probably come within the month that we submit it. We usually do those later in the year. As we wrap up our batch of June 30th, we usually submit them mostly at the same time, probably later in November or early December. So it'll come at that time, and we can work through the process to respond. They usually only give you 30 days to respond. So I would recommend that we get started on that process sooner rather than later. It goes a lot faster when we have the response ready.
Mhm.
You can't send it to them now. They won't take it. So you got to wait for the letter. And then if we have that just all ready to go in queue, we can just send it right out.
So we begin working on essentially the corrective action plan and the resolution now.
Yes.
So that way, when the letter comes, we're ready to shoot it off.
Yep.
Understood.
Yeah, we've already started working on it.
Sure, I know. I can't help. I'm nosy and I want to know because I'm curious. I love this plan, but I want to make sure how that works. So
Right.
thank you, though.
Anybody else on council have questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir, for attending. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for council to enter the record, the audited financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 into the record.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Schneider, supported by President Pro Tem Stuffler to record the audited financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 into the record. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Homecoming committee applications. Clerk Kiesler.
Yes, we received 4 applications for homecoming committee, and I got an update on Friday from all 4 of those as to which positions, officer positions, they would like to apply for. Ms. Paula Alfonsi would like to apply for the chair, Mr. Paul Bowman for vice chair, Ms. Weasel Lagan for treasurer, and Ms. Tracy Pawinski for secretary.
So, once council approves the nominations, are there any other actions that need to be taken tonight? Swearing in?
The only thing is the term, according to the bylaws, it's a 5-year term, while the next homecoming is hopefully in 2026. So I don't know if you guys want to adjust that date or just keep it as a 5-year term.
I would recommend we keep it as is, as it's designed right now, and we could always adjust later if necessary, because the idea of it being a continuing basis of every 5 years, just because we had to move it because of our issues this year, I don't think that we intend to continue moving it off of its normally scheduled date. I would assume we would hope to resume back to the every 5 years of 2015, 2020. I would assume that, but I think we should also take feedback from the committee once it's formed on whether or not they would want to change that. But right now, it seems premature to start changing the
Sure.
intended design of something that's gone on for over a century.
The next one might only be 4 years
Right. Or
20,
3 or
30.
2 or whatever.
to get back on schedule.
Right. Exactly. I would think we'd want to give them the opportunity to get back on schedule first.
Do any of the applicants want to make a presentation to council on on your desire and wish to serve on the committee?
Would be the same practice we do for appointment to every board. If you're here, you're more than welcome to take the podium and.
I think we explained that in the application.
Okay.
We've all done it before, and we're familiar with the call and everything that goes along.
Does anybody on council have any questions for the applicants? Mindy? Yeah.
Sure. Just for our 4 applicants, mostly a matter of record, but just want to Make sure that you have all reviewed, understand the bylaws as they're written, and promise that you'll uphold them to the best of your ability. Thumbs up?
That's one of the first things we've got to go through is the bylaws, because in the last paragraph, in there says that, you know, we can suggest some changes, and I think that may happen.
Okay, yeah, and that, there'll be a process for that, and I think it's just important that that's the set baseline, and then if there's deviations recommended from that you bring those to council for discussion.
Any other questions? Should we make these individual motions?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just go down the list in order. Do we have a motion to appoint Ms. Paula Alfonsi as the chairperson for the homecoming committee?
Yes, I'll make the motion to appoint Ms. Paula Alfonsi as the chairperson for the Almont Homecoming Committee.
Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by President Pro Tem Stoeffler, to appoint Paula Alfonsi as the chairperson for the homecoming committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Paul Bowman as the vice chairperson to the homecoming committee?
So moved. Support.
Motion by Councilmember Schneider. Was that Councilmember Miller or Councilmember? So to rephrase, motion by Councilmember Schneider, supported by Councilmember Miller, to appoint Mr. Paul Bowman as vice chairman to the homecoming committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Can I have a motion to appoint Ms. Weeze Lagan as the treasurer to the homecoming committee?
I'll make the motion to appoint Ms. Weeze Lagan as the treasurer to the homecoming committee.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Glasser, to appoint Ms. Weeze Lagan to the homecoming committee as treasurer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Do we have a motion to appoint Ms. Tracy Puwinski to the homecoming committee as secretary?
I'll make the motion to appoint Ms. Tracy Puwinski as the secretary to the homecoming committee. Support.
Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Powell, to appoint Ms. Tracy Puwinski to the homecoming committee as secretary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. I'd like to personally thank you all for wanting to be involved and taking the time to do this, so much appreciated.
Would you like me to swear them in?
Yes, if that's the next step.
Individually or all together? No, all together, we can do it all together. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duty
of the office of homecoming committee members,
of the
officers. Sorry.
Say
I will faithfully perform the duties of the office
I will faithfully perform
the duties of the office of the homecoming committee officers. Sorry.
Yeah.
In and for the village of Almont. The village of Almont.
Almont,
County of Lapeer.
County of Lapeer,
And state of Michigan.
State of Michigan,
According to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me
So help me
God.
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 Best of ability. That's the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so this is gonna be Paul. I haven't filled it in. Right here. Right here. So right here, okay. got appointed, so
I'm not sure I want to sign a blank form.
you don't trust me. Because it trust all of us.
Just get around.
And just a reminder to our newly appointed committee, once again, thanks for serving. Second of all, we do encourage the bylaws do be reviewed, so they're followed correctly. And one of the things within the bylaws is to set a 12-month meeting schedule. So that might be one of your first activities to do. And obviously, if you have any questions regarding that, feel free to contact Village or myself with any questions. Always glad to be able to answer any questions.
So I can contact him.
Yep. Moving on to the next agenda item, homecoming or paving project.
Yes, in your packet, you'll find a memo from Manager Curbison outlining the history and preparation that's gone into the repaving project for the parking lot here at the Municipal Hall. At the September 8th meeting, the township approved a bid from TG Prees, and we're requesting that the village approve the same contractor for our portion in an amount not to exceed $67,500, as per the reasons in Manager Curbison's memo.
Any questions regarding this from council? If not,
I'll make a motion to approve in the amount of not to exceed $67,500 to approve the paving project as presented in the memo.
Support.
support. Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Glasser to approve the village's portion of the paving project for the village parking lot here at the Village Township Hall, not to exceed the amount of $67,500. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 4, Clark purchase.
Per wastewater treatment plant superintendent Farley's memo, he is recommending, we have to purchase ferric chloride. Again, he is recommending PVS at the cost of $2.47 per gallon. He anticipates approximately 4,100 gallons that are going to be used.
We're asking that for PVS in the amount of $10,000, $10,382.
Or you can say at a price of $2.47 per gallon, not to exceed a number, because I'm not sure, because that 4,100 is an estimate.
An estimate based on our previous
Previous
usage
usage,
and
yes.
anticipated no change, essentially.
Right. Whatever council's preference is.
I also assume we wouldn't need any of the additional charges listed in the quote.
I wouldn't assume so, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't believe we've ever paid for those services, so it's safe to assume that we would not, but
Since the pricing is subject to change on market conditions, do we want to give a little bit of a wiggle room on the not to exceed, or keep it to the penny based off of the approximated 4,100 gallons.
So that's why I asked what day did we get the quote. So the quote is 12 days old. So if we get the parts in within the next 2 weeks, we should be able to not get hit with any increase.
How quickly do they change their?
It says
Price.
the term is net 30 days. Market conditions is probably monthly, but I'm not sure. I get the order in as soon as possible.
Right, I don't disagree. I'm just saying by the time that they go through it and go for delivery, because the terms of net 30 days is how quickly they expect their payment, not how quickly they can change their rates.
Yeah.
So they could change their rates by the time we're done with this conversation. That was why I was saying, should we offer a little bit of wiggle room on it? I mean, maybe not much, but maybe bump it to 10,250, give us a, small bit of wiggle room. If it were to exceed that, then it did have to come back before us for review, but we give a tiny bit of wiggle room on it.
Sales tax in that, or?
I don't believe so.
No.
Well, we don't typically pay sales tax.
Correct.
We're exempt. But good question otherwise.
We're going to see if the other quotes gave this quote is good for X number of days term. They did not.
Price validity until further notice. That is from Alexander Chemical.
I get the feeling since it's a commodity that is a regularly changing market, they're not going to guarantee it for any period of time. It's this is what it is until I tell you differently, which could be never or again, 5 minutes.
And I don't know how much it fluctuates either, so.
Well, I was going to ask because I think we did buy 4,000 gallons last year.
40, yeah, yep.
What price did we pay last year? It was right around the same.
Our last order was placed on, according to the memo, October 4th. So you would think it was second meeting in September of last year. Yeah, I don't have it.
So you just need a motion.
I will make the motion that we approve the purchase from PVS at $2.47 per gallon for approximately 4,100 gallons for a price not to exceed $10,250.
Support.
Motion made by Councilmember Schneider, as stated on the record, supported by Councilmember Miller to, for the delivery of 4,000 gallons of PBS at $2.47 per gallon, not to exceed the price of $10,250. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Agenda Item number 5, resident complaint approval forms.
It was requested of council to have our attorneys look at our policies, and in the packet are the two proposed from our attorney.
So Kim, the three possible variations under number 1 on the complaint, that's the only modification from the previous one. Is that correct?
Correct.
Otherwise, it is verbatim the same.
Correct.
Okay. And then obviously the second policy is completely brand new because we didn't segregate or separate them before. That's a brand new creation, right?
Correct.
Well, I'm very interested in what the rest of council thinks as to who should be allowed to submit complaints and what we do with them.
Kind of an interesting question. So I'll give you a example. Maybe that'll help discussion. Let's say you're a leaser of a building downtown, right? you're not a resident and you're not a property owner. So you have no right to make a complaint, even if you have an issue as running a business in town.
Well,
If
we pick the
if
one
we
that would
pick
have-
the one that says that you have to be a resident or you have to be a property owner.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I totally understand. Like I
So-
said, I'm very interested.
so I feel that if you're working here or temporary in town, that you should have a right to still come up. If you have a complaint about within the bounds of this, saying, you know, there's a problem with municipal services, problem with operations, or an ordinance, you should still have the right to make the complaint and have it at least reviewed.
So just for clarification, because I think what you're implying or what you meant by that, you want it to apply to non-residents as well, not just if you're in town for
Correct.
doing business, but so
Correct.
that
Yes.
we don't.
You don't have to be a property owner within the village limits or a resident within the village limits, but you may be within the village limits on a regular basis and come across an issue you have with an ordinance or operations or municipal.
Which is sensible
Services.
that you want to open the door to those circumstances, but at the same time, the other side of that coin is, so what we mean is, we are opening it to quite literally everyone, because there are no restrictions, there are no qualifications, complaints can be made by anyone. There's pros and cons with this decision. I don't disagree with your point. I'm saying, but in order to open the door to that circumstance, you open the door to all circumstances.
Correct. Now, the thing and the reason I'm comfortable with that is reading the entire thing is saying, if you want to do it anonymously, you're not going to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give some information. You have to provide some proof. You have to provide some evidence as part of the policy to make the complaint. So you can, and oh, by the way, at the end, you can't make a false complaint, because if it comes across that way, you might be in trouble.
Don't disagree. That the only part I would take issue with is where you said if it's anonymous, we won't take it seriously. It doesn't say that so much. It just says it isn't treated with the same level because there are just logistical realities with anonymous complaints.
Correct. It says that we have the right to review it in due time and do with it as we will. Where the other is, okay, if you want to give as much detail on who you are and how to contact you, then we'll take your complaint.
So which of the three versions, if any, do you think is the appropriate version?
Obviously not the first one. In my opinion, is the second one is probably the most fitting, I feel, but
Can the second one be reworded to include an addendum for somebody that has an interest within the village, i.e. a renter or a non-taxpaying resident, is a non-taxpaying, like an apartment renter, they're still a resident of the village, correct?
Yes, but hold on, let me first thing clarify. This is our policy. We can adopt the language to say anything we want it to say. So it can say quite literally anything this board will agree on, A. B, we like to have legal interpretation to not only verify that we're doing this appropriately, but we don't open ourselves to other liabilities. B, I think rather than determining which of these is appropriate first or how we might want to modify them, I think we need consensus from council first to determine whether or not we want any restrictions as to who can file the complaint, or if there's going to be no restrictions, or if it's these ones are treated this way, these ones are treated this way. I think we need consensus on that before we decide which of the three we like. I liked that Councilmember Feldman pointed out his perspective and which one he thinks meets that perspective, but I think we all need to feel as though we're going to come into consensus as which way we would like to see it operate, and then pick the language to meet it. Because picking the language to meet it first assumes we all agree who should and should not be able to make a complaint and how we will address it. For example, it says information received from non-residents will not be processed as a formal complaint under this policy, but the village may in its discretion review it. So it doesn't outright say we won't, which is all I'm saying is that you said definitely not the first one, and I'm saying, well, there is still an opening there, and it is not the best version of the language. I agree. Just all of them are trying to address the difference between and make a distinction between residents and landowners versus non-residents, non-landowners, because it's the only real way to make a distinction categorically. We also don't have to be categorical, but if it's the consensus of council you would like us to be, where we treat residents and taxpayers and landowners with a higher priority than we do but we still accept theirs, versus do we even accept anonymous or not accept anonymous? These are the categories that we have to decide. Clearly, legal is telling us we can pick any of them. It's really kind of pick your flavor. What would you like?
Yeah, so I would stick with 2 for me personally. And the biggest distinction for me between 2 and 3 is that 3 says, we'll take your complaint if you're a non-resident, but if somebody comes in after you that's a resident, we're going to put priority on theirs first, which may be the right thing to do, but at the same time, it's like, hey, if you took the wherewithal to go put in the complaint and you gave as much information as you could about it, it should be a first in, first out, in my opinion. See the complaint. Is it valid? Is it not valid? Should we do anything? Should we investigate it or not? Make that call. Administration can handle that. Number 2 is more representative of that.
I agree. I think the middle.
I don't disagree at all. I do. I wanted to preserve me weighing in on it until the end, so I wouldn't push us in a direction. But I really appreciate it. I think you're correct. I think, to me, it doesn't matter who the complaints come from. All the complaints should be treated with the same level of respect and inquiry, because that's why we have a complaint system. We need to know if something's wrong. We cannot be everywhere all at once, and it does not truthfully matter to me if you are a resident of the Village of Almont, or you're a landowner, or you are a temporary tenant, or you are passing through from Ohio. I don't really care. A complaint is a complaint that we should take seriously and take appropriate action if necessary. So I agree. I like the more wide open perspective of being able to receive them and address them fairly and equally, no matter who it comes from.
The right side of the table is kind of being quiet.
I think the second one fits the best. I agree.
I agree, and to Councilmember Feldman's point, we could even add leasees as people in where it says residents and property owners. We could put them as priority as well if we want to do that.
So technically, I think that's the problem of what we're looking at from that perspective from the second one. If you are a leasee, are we talking about commercial leasees or residential leasees? If we're trying to expand the definition, because it's essentially what we're doing here is expanding the definition, and from a legal perspective, that's why we wanted to add leasees, but then we have to make a distinction between whether it is commercial or residential leasees, because residential leasees, they're residents, so they're technically already covered. Commercial leasees are not residents.
That would probably be the appropriate.
I think that's what you're aiming at.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, because if we want to make the distinction that residents are for the non-commercial application, so if we want to add commercial leasees, then
Do you think that the wording change needs to go back through legal?
to add commercial leasees to the list of who, no, I don't at all think that that's necessary. Any other concerns with any of the language of the rest of the policy?
Question, if we're kind of settled on this subject, the submittal of complaints in person, by mail, or email to our ordinance officer. My question was, I know she's part-time, but how often does she review her emails? And if she's on an extended vacation or leave, does someone check?
She usually checks her emails daily, whether she's on vacation or not.
I just am concerned there could be a gap, especially if it's something that's a little more expedient, if she's out. That's really my,
Well, if she's out, she could always put an email forward to the clerk and the village manager for the time she's out,
to make sure.
to make sure that it's received.
Or auto reply, like
Yeah.
I'm not here.
An auto reply and a forward, I would suggest. That covers all bases.
And this, I think is just my personal opinion, but I do sort of feel like it is a little burdensome to make people use a specific form to submit a complaint. I do feel that it limits people's ability to make a complaint. I just kind of thinking through scenarios, say if someone saw a garbage truck leaked on their street, would we accept the complaint if they called the village office and told us about it? Or would we say, you need to download this form, fill it out, and email it to our ordinance?
Garbage truck leaked in front of their house. What kind of leak are you talking about? Like trash, or are you talking?
No, like oil. How would we handle that?
Actually, I believe we've had that happen. And
It wasn't by me.
yeah, and they call the village hall. I mean, and we would probably fill out the complaint form.
Like staff would fill it out and submit it for them. Okay. I think that makes me feel a little bit better that we wouldn't kind of like say, oh, nope, we're not going to address that until you email us.
If it's something, if it's something that drastic, I think the staff
Or
would.
just
yeah.
expedient, right? Like if something needs an immediate response, then we could address it accordingly.
I like the complaint form though, because then we make sure we get the consistency of the details of the complaint. So, and I like that process too, but that way, if staff's the one filling it out, they'll make sure to collect all those necessary fields so that we can document it appropriately.
I just wanted to make sure that there was a pathway to get a little more immediate action. So if that's our practice, then that does make me feel more comfortable with that.
Complaint form into a fillable PDF that you could
I believe so, yes.
probably fill out.
If
on your
not, it will be.
Smartphone. Most likely, because everybody else and their brother has you fill out a form on your phone to do anything nowadays.
It's very
It is very annoying. Your phone fills it out 90% for you.
Looking on the website now, it looks, I like the website redesign. I'm still having trouble finding where the complaint form is if it's already on there.
Do you have any other questions or concerns with the appropriated forms?
Well, we discussed the first. We haven't discussed the second one ever because it's brand new. This is for a substantially different purpose than what we've ever discussed. When we discussed it before, we were discussing it in the context of an OEO complaint, and we specifically stated we thought there needs to be a different version where it is not, related specifically to an ordinance or otherwise. This one is for outside of that, but any other type of governmental service essentially, which can be towards any member of administration or otherwise. I mean, this is substantially different. I feel like it definitely warrants further discussion from council as to what they think of handling this issue in this way, because we don't officially have a different complaint policy like this in existence, right?
Correct.
Right. So this is a brand new situation altogether. And I think that in theory, good idea to do. Is this the best execution of it? Because this is a lot more than my neighbor's grass is too tall. This is, I was treated inappropriately, or terms of harassment, or, these are much more serious types of issues being addressed. And it's saying to submit those specifically to the village manager or the village president. And then it gives really broad, generic, unclear ways of handling pretty much everything. And I don't know that that's how we want to present it. I'm not saying we need to box ourselves into very, very specific sets of circumstances, but this is pretty broad language that doesn't tell you much other than we will look into it and have the appropriate person, body, entity, investigative committee look into it. It's very broad. And I don't know if that's satisfactory to the rest of council.
This also went through legal review.
Yes, this is from the attorney.
Legal drafted it, right? Yeah.
I think this is a good starting point. I didn't see anything that I thought was out of bounds or, we don't have anything like this currently. And I think it's good that we work towards this goal. There's a pathway to submit a complaint of this nature. I think that's commendable that we would want to try and give someone that pathway.
Who drafted this? Which attorney drafted this?
I believe Bodnar.
Or sure, yeah, it was better. So just for example, number 5, submission methods. So by email to designated official email. So what's going to be the official email? Where do we direct this to? Is there a generic inbox? And if it's a generic inbox, who has access to it? It matters because also, if you look at the final bullet point, through a sealed submission marked confidential, administrative, and personnel complaint addressed to village council president, village manager, or other appropriate authority. So are we indicating to a member of the public or otherwise it's their job to figure out who the appropriate entity to submit their confidential and sealed complaint is to? For example, if your complaint is about the village manager, are you supposed to submit it to the village manager? If not, who are you supposed to submit it to? My point is that this form, I agree, in theory, is great. I like having it. I'm glad that we're going to address this gap. But I think that there's some logistical issues here that while we may understand how some of these operations work from experience, I certainly do not expect members of the public to. And this doesn't really make it clear who you submit what to under what circumstances. And I kind of feel like that would be a bare minimum requirement of having such a policy.
I don't know if we're going to be able to detail out, if it's about this, you submit it to this.
So then do we need to have a clearer way of saying, because what we're saying is address it to the appropriate individual without telling them who that is. So do we need to pick a single point of contact? How does that work? I mean, I feel like putting it like this makes it very confusing.
I think maybe you could list out village council president, village manager, and then use the person's discretion on who they want to submit it to, or both.
Some clarification.
Not like we would disregard, you sent it to the wrong person, into the trash.
Exactly.
That's just
But you
not-
also don't want to discourage them from submitting it at all because they're not sure who they're supposed to.
Yeah, it also says by mail to the address, but then it doesn't say who to address it to in the mail either.
That's what I'm saying. There's just some logistical cleanup.
And if it's mailed to the village president, he needs to know it's been mailed because I don't come in every day and check my little mailbox.
So, I mean, I would just recommend that we get some clarification there. I like the various ways in which you can submit it. I think that's great. If we're going to suggest it's being submitted by email, I think we need some thought into what email address that is and who has access to it if these are supposed to be confidential. And if it's going to be through the sealed submission option, that final bullet point, I think we need some clarification that they can decide who they think is the appropriate authority. If we're not going to detail out if your complaint is about this, then this is the appropriate entity to make it out to or to give it to, then we have to make it clear that we're allowing them to select who they think is appropriate or who they feel most comfortable with, I guess, if that's what council
I
wants.
think it's implied. I don't know. I don't know if that
Yeah,
level of detail is needed.
I'm not comfortable with it's implied. I want to be clear so as not to discourage or to create confusion, and I would think that from experience with the labor attorneys, they want to be very, very careful about these types of complaints and what we say about them. So this is, in my opinion, an oversight on their part in drafting it that way, but that's just my opinion. I would like it not to be implied. I'd like it to be explicit.
With this type of situation, I would rather take the time to get clarification on their opinion of that than just move forward.
Yeah, because you could create a specific email, a confidential complaint-only email address that it could go to with only certain people having access to it.
And that's a decision to make too. That's what I'm getting at. So
Yeah.
who has access, right?
Yeah, but again, that could be a problem
It could be
because.
anybody. If 3 different people have access.
Right, because if the village president and the village manager have access to it and a confidential complaint comes in against either one of us and we have access to see that, and that's kind of.
Actually, I don't think that that's accurate. When I was looking at this, and tell me if you view this differently, this does not seem to apply to, like I said, correct me if everybody else has a different interpretation, to village council itself. It seems to apply to the administration.
Okay.
I don't see anywhere in here any language that seems to indicate that it applies to council itself. And that's another reason that I wanted clarification. Should this be applicable to village council members if you wanted it to? Do we not want it to? If we don't want it to, shouldn't it state that? So that way, because right now it doesn't clarify. I read it as, I think it's implied that it doesn't. I could certainly see somebody reading it and getting the opposite interpretation. I think we should be clear.
I think that it could just be expanded. Part of the government. The Village of Alma government. I think that's us. If you think it needs to be clarified, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if someone has a complaint against a council member, there should be an appropriate way to submit that.
I don't disagree that they should. Is by its reading could be interpreted differently. I mean, for example, village complaints may be submitted by village residents, property owners, employees, elected officials, or other individuals directly affected by village operations. You could read that giving of elected officials to mean that we have the ability to submit those complaints. And is that against ourselves? I just think it needs clarification. It should be easily understandable no matter your level of experience with municipal government.
Does anybody else have any other?
No, I think there is some clarification that needs to happen.
I just want to make sure that we're putting a lot of parameters in place and procedures and processes. I mean, I work in an organization that receives complaints every day, and we can't turn down any complaint because it wasn't submitted properly. We will investigate complaints. You know, it's good to have a process and a
No,
procedure, but
No, I agree,
let's just
but
be careful with, you know,
I agree with that,
putting
but
so many parameters around it is just.
But I don't see what we're talking about as more parameters as clarifications of an easier way to do it.
Right, and Minnie, my concern isn't to say, for example, that we wouldn't review it if it isn't submitted properly. It's rather I want to prevent discouraging someone from submitting it at all in the first place because the policy itself is unclear. If they were to have any questions about it and decide not to, I don't want that to happen.
Or the policy gets submitted and is viewed by the wrong eyes.
That's another concern. And I mean, just overall, I think it may be different from your perspective of somebody who receives complaints all the time versus people who don't. So we want to make sure it's clear for people who aren't regularly submitting complaints or know how that process is handled.
So are we approving the first policy and then tabling the second policy? Or were we just discussing these tonight?
regular agenda item, not a
Yeah.
open discussion item. So I believe the intent was to, if we liked them, approve them. And I agree with you that we could approve the first because we've got no further changes. This second one probably should have been open discussion because it's the first time we've ever seen it. It's a first draft.
Well, the only change we had on the first one was, we were going to adopt section 2 and add the wording, commercial leasing.
Commercial leases.
Leases. Does anybody else have any other commentary on the second form that we were discussing? Are we in consensus to table the second form with the suggested revisions back to legal?
I mean, we don't have necessarily revisions, we want some
Well, clarifications.
clarification or recommendation.
Clarification, sorry for my wrong vernacular there. So do we have a motion to approve the first form?
I will make the motion that we approve the draft form of OEO P001 with the second paragraph suggestion under paragraph 1 for who may submit a complaint, with the included language that complaints from residents, commercial leasees, and property owners, so including commercial leasees, and as otherwise presented.
One last comment is I can't find the form on the website either. I don't know if you were
It's
ever
called an
successful.
OEO inspection slip, but I'm gonna have to revamp that.
Yeah, I would
because
suggest
it's
that we
not-
put that on the main front page, that the people don't
Yep.
have to be digging for it.
I'll have to
That we make-
revamp it.
that we advertise that it's available and it's easy to find on the first page.
Thank you.
I'll support. Yeah.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Schneider to adopt the ordinance enforcement municipal complaint policy with the amended changes by language changes, supported by Councilmember Feldman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. We are tabling the second form for further language clarifications as stated on the record. Agenda item number 6, recording of warranty deed.
Yes, in the past few years, we have made it a practice of entering into the official minutes any type of easement, property deed. Included in your packet is the recorded warranty deed for the parcels at 209 South Main, and South Main. With the parcels indicated in the memo. I'm just asking council to enter that warranty deed into the record.
Any questions from council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to enter the warranty deed for parcels identified in this memorandum into the record.
Nope. Support.
Motion by Councilmember Feldman, supported by Councilmember Schneider to record warranty deeds for parcels number 44-041-475-031-00, 44-041-475-008-50, and 44-041-527-040-00. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion unanimously passes. Now is the time for public comment for any non-agenda item for tonight. Does anybody have any public comment on any non-agenda item? Being none, we'll move to open discussion. ORV ordinance. At our last council meeting, we had received a memo that the chief was asking us to amend our ordinance to include the Lapeer County ORV ordinance for consistency. There was discussion.
Create,
or create,
Recommend, but-
There was discussion, in regards to some concerns about ORVs, golf carts, and overall safety. We asked, for some highlights from the state, the Lapeer, and some other surrounding communities. And, what you've got in your discussion package is what we were given. So,
there's only one correction that I did want to make sure that we highlighted. It's not really that big of a deal, but the lighting requirements are different in Lapeer County compared to the state. Lapeer County's ORV ordinance says that headlights and taillights will be on at all hours of the day, not 30 minutes before sunrise
State
and
law,
sunset.
or does that count?
That's county.
Oh,
That's
okay.
in the county ordinance.
Can't tell because we weren't given a copy of the ordinance again, so now I gotta go try to dig it out from last week.
That's why
I got
I
you.
read it today again.
And can you remind us of what the township recently made an action? Was that to adopt the county, or was that, I can't recall what that was.
Yes, the board last Monday adopted the County of Lapeer's ordinance for ORV.
Township, all roads within the township that would cover?
Except M roads
Except-
and,
And
well,
then
and
within the
whatever roads
village.
they determine they don't want to have ORVs on, yeah, they can limit it. But as it stands, it's my understanding right now, it's the M roads and I roads.
East St. Clair, West
Yes.
St. Clair, Dryden Road from Van Dyke to Metamora is no ORV. There's a map that has it all laid out, that if you're driving an ORV in Lapeer County, you better have your map with you. Mostly dirt roads.
But it does include paved roads.
Don't a lot of the side-by-sides and stuff like that come with the built-in GPS maps now to tell you which ones you can and can't be on?
Newer ones, yes.
Yes, right. Obviously, that's not for everybody, just because it's so confusing, you have to have specific GPSs built to tell you what roads you can and cannot go on.
Yeah, so for Elmont, for the village, it's pretty straightforward. If you look at the map, East St. Clair, West St. Clair, from the village limits on both sides. M53 obviously is M Road, that's off limits.
East St. Clair, West St. Clair was also off limits, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
And that West St. Clair is actually off limits all the way to Rochester Road. Rochester Road is also off limits. All the way through 69 and north into the county as it jogs over to Lake Pleasant. Dryden Road, like I said, Van Dyke, that's a nuance because east of Van Dyke, you can drive on Dryden Road, but west of Van Dyke, you cannot all the way to 24.
I can't even come up with one.
Interesting.
I was gonna say, is it because it runs into other major trunk lines, but Dryden Road is a major trunk line, both directions.
Yeah,
We just don't want people headed towards Dryden.
I guess.
So, Chief, I know this would certainly make things easier for you guys as to enforcement. We're not trying to make it any more confusing than it already is, although it is very confusing. Any other concerns other than in the memo that you provided us for the last agenda?
The only other issue, but Kim put it to bed for me, was if there was any type of liability for the village.
There isn't, but yeah.
So adopting that, we would take on the same liability that the county basically said, which is the ORV drivers are liable. They're at fault if there's an accident.
Absent prima facie evidence otherwise that we are at fault. I mean, there is the possibility of liability, but it is the plain and obvious on its face rule, essentially, that, we went out and threw spike strips in front of them and caused a major accident. Absent something incredibly obvious on its face, then we don't have liability.
So, just a question, as it stands right now, can you drive an ORV on a village street? No, right? Because the state law only has designated trails, routes, that sort of thing.
We know it's already happening, but
You know what's happening. Yeah, I mean, I think this is an issue that community input, I think, is important. Maybe some education along with that input. Me personally, we have a lot of people who walk around on village streets. We don't have sidewalks on all of our streets. I do fear that if we have an increase in this type of activity, that there could be some concerns with pedestrian safety. But I also am not an ORV rider. I don't really know a lot about it. So I definitely would be open to learning a little bit more about it and hearing what others think.
well, if you want community input, I believe you could certainly ask the trustee in the audience how many people showed up last year regarding their ORV ordinance. It was literally packed out the door with 200 to 300 very angry, screaming people about potentially limiting ORV access and usage. So I think that I know I was here for that. I personally witnessed plenty of community feedback. However, I haven't seen any community feedback that says that they don't want it. You may regret inviting that upon us, but
Like right now, it could stay as it stands. You're not allowed to do that. Like, this is potentially like opening it up for that type of activity.
well, not potentially, it definitely is, right? I mean,
Right,
well,
yeah.
like we said, we know it already exists. We're just not enforcing.
Yeah.
We haven't been. Additionally, I don't know if anyone has approached you about the concerns of it happening, but I know President Dyke has certainly been approached about, we want this. So but I haven't heard anyone saying we don't want this. I've definitely heard we want the rules enforced.
Correct. Yes.
Because it has not been as of now, but I also think that consistency is probably the most fair to the community. And if now the county had this in place, the township has now adopted it, and our chief is recommending that we adopt it as well, so that there's fair consistency for enforcement, because if we don't, I'm concerned it makes it very difficult for them to enforce it consistently. I think it probably makes more sense to have these rules so that they can enforce them rather than failing to enforce them because we don't have an ordinance at all.
Chief, do you feel like you would, if adopted, would you be able to enforce this on a more regular basis? Would your officers be able to enforce it?
Yes, it limits the confusion from the general public, people that visit the community itself, because we will stop people. Oh, I'm sorry, but I was able to get here through the township. I went through this way. I didn't know you guys couldn't do it here. Where it's a lot easier if we would be able to inform the public what the rules are and educate them.
And post as well, because they're not posted right now, correct? In the township or in the village? But they should be, so that we can appropriately inform and enforce.
I think it's a good step forward. The other part of this, that if you read the county's ordinance, that it's not as open as you think. You have to be 16. You have to have a valid driver's license So if you're 35 and you're on a suspended license, you cannot drive your lawn tractor or your ORV into town because you don't have a driver's license, because you have to have a valid driver's license to bring it into town.
And you can't really bring it to the Four Corners either because you can't access through East St. Clair, West St. Clair, or
Vanda.
M53.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's side streets only.
Which is,
Limited to 25 or less. Seatbelts, helmets, roll cage.
When they're caught, because around my rectangle.
well, but the people driving around I don't think there's a 16-year-old driving a golf cart or an ORV around you.
No, they're all under the age of 14.
Yeah, they're all
Golf carts
kids.
are ORVs and they don't classify as this. You have to have a separate.
Why aren't we enforcing that?
What's that?
Why aren't we enforcing that?
Well, first of all, it's very difficult to enforce laws that you don't post. You have to post them. You're required to.
How would we post?
Signage, for example, it's just like with speed limits, it's
Like-
signage.
You're not allowed to do something illegal here? Like, I'm
Well,
confused
so we have
about it.
the no engine braking signs when you come into town. I could similarly see an ORV
Is-
sign.
And if you
Right.
don't have that, you can't enforce it. It has to be posted.
I would, I don't know about that.
Chief, clarification?
I don't believe, I could be misspeaking, but I don't know if it has to be posted. I know we posted the engine braking to notify the trucks that come into the village about doing it. Because most of them, when we were stopping them, they're like, I didn't know we couldn't do that. We posted it. Now there is no excuse. And that's why I would recommend if we were to adopt something like this, we would post the ORV rules at the beginning, or all four corners, just like we did with the engine braking, what we expect.
Whenever you had the engine braking and they said that they didn't know it, did you ever ticket them?
Yes,
Did those tickets go through or were they tossed?
I honestly don't recall.
I bet you a good chunk of them, if not all of them, were tossed because it is a very valid defense because it wasn't posted. And that's why I'm saying it needs to be posted.
Like I said, I feel like it would be a hard time posting all the rules around it.
It isn't
It was just
necessarily
like
that you have to post all of the rules.
Subject to ordinance, blah, blah, blah. I don't
That's how it's done.
Yeah, county ordinance.
We do the same thing in the park and other places.
But that's like for education, not that we couldn't enforce, it doesn't say you must keep your dog on a leash in the park, but that's an ordinance. It's not posted on a sign, but you still have to follow it. Same thing with don't litter. It's not posted,
Sure, but
but you
this
still
serves
have to follow it.
this serves both purposes. It's education and making sure that we can follow through with enforcement without issue, without very valid defenses that make it more difficult. I mean, I don't really see the problem with posting like we do many other things.
I don't have an issue with it. My concern is that you can't enforce things. I think we need, be careful about that.
Any other questions or comments?
One thing we did ask about was another city's golf cart policy. I didn't see that in the packet for our review.
I didn't find a golf cart policy.
Oh, no, we
Yeah.
got it sent, but I guess we never turned it over to Kim because it was sent to us already.
Oh, yeah, I never.
We discussed that at the last one. That's on us. It was sent to us as a request to look into it, to pursue it here. We mentioned that at the last meeting.
And that would be a separate ordinance anyways, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, they are treated separately because
And e-bikes should be addressed at some point.
Well, in the definition of the county ordinance, they cover two-wheeled, three-wheeled, four-wheeled.
So are e-bikes considered an ORV?
varying classifications. I think that's maybe something we keep an eye on.
Yeah,
I'm saying
it's
we
a
should-
broad
We
representation.
should address
Because a
rapidly
golf cart
changing
would be under that same
technology.
broad
It's, I mean, unless we want to be doing it week by week.
Right.
That one's a little more difficult. That's what we
Right.
were discussing is the difficulty in regulating a very quickly changing thing that some technically can be considered ORVs and some are not. and how do we
We'll,
deal with that?
we'll forward the golf cart one to you, Chief, if you could look at it too, and then put it in open discussion for next meeting, if that's okay with everybody. So, we know Mindy's not consensus, but is council in consensus to put this on the agenda to adopt at the next meeting, or?
We have to have first reading.
Was that?
We have to have first reading.
Okay. Pretty,
It's an ordinance, yeah, first reading, second reading.
so is council in consensus to put it on the agenda next time for first reading?
Yes.
To open discussion, it's time for council member comment. Chief Willis, do you have anything to bring to council?
No, I did not. Thank you.
Thanks for being here tonight. Clerk Treasurer Keesler, do you have anything to bring to council?
Yeah, the last couple of weeks, we've been working with our website developer, and the village website is updated, and it is now ADA accessible.
Accessible mean.
Read it, you can hear it.
Awesome. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you. Councilmember Glasser. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Feldman.
Said.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Schneider. President Pro Tem Stoeffler.
Nothing.
Councilmember Powell.
I just wanted to say again, the village website looks a lot better, so I appreciate the work that went into that. Kim, I did find the OEO inspection slip on the website.
Mhm.
I think if this is going to be our complaint form, I think it needs some revision, or we might need a separate form,
Absolutely.
because just reading it, it isn't clear to me from a resident or anyone that would submit this, how they would go through this. So I think we'd need to look at that. And then additionally, I found a second OEO inspection slip, but it has Mike Connors as the village manager, so we might want to
Might need to update that.
delete the redundant one. But
Yes.
other than that, that's all I had.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Miller. We are going to go into closed session, but previous to doing that, if we have students here, you can come up and get your agenda signed.
Andy, you don't have a thing to sign?
Thanks for
Is this
being
the
here.
one? Like says Inspector Groves.
Today is.
Doesn't say anything about
Right.
violation.
Oh, government spending so much on, you're welcome.
on days over there this summer.
Yeah, like this would not tell me like this.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask, because I was just curious, because I noticed it.
Yeah.
We're still on the thing.
No, I'm just asking about, let's change the logo, the logo's different, and that's nothing I have a problem with it being on.
Oh, on the village
Yeah,
website.
well, no, actually, if you notice, it's on a lot of our documentation, they changed the font and stuff, I was just curious. Hey, Kim, who came up with a new, font for the, Village of Elma? So I've been noticing it's on the logo, on your signature and all
The
that.
web,
Designer people, they came up with it? Okay, I was just curious. It's just, I noticed it as soon as it was different, it stands out,
you
so.
like it?
I do. I like the font. I don't get why it's brown on the website, but it's not so orange, but I like the font.
Yeah, because the orange was,
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah, hey, we don't like black and orange. Why would we do that?
We have a motion to go into closed session.
Language. I'll make the motion that we go into closed session in accordance with Section 8D of the Michigan Open Meetings Act.
Support.
Motion
Heard it over
by,
here.
motion by Councilmember Stoeffler, supported by President Pro Tem Stoeffler, supported by Councilmember Schneider to go into closed session. All those in favor, roll call.
Yes. Feldman?
Aye.
Glasser? Miller?
Aye.
Powell?
Aye.
Schneider?
Aye.
Stoeffler?
Aye.
Dyke?
Aye.